Are we on? Yes. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. What a day today has been. Like, so much stuff's happened today. It's kind of unbelievable to think that, like, normal people are going through their daily lives thinking that nothing's wrong. So the British military was defeated in an overwhelming defeat against the Ukrainians. One British commander said, "We are fuggly-dugglied. We are fuggly-dugglied." We're going to be talking about that today, as the contrast and the backdrop is Keir Starmer saying that Europe must be ready to fight the Russians, while the British army, and I'm going to call it right now, guys, didactically, is not ready. That's the reality of the situation on the ground right now. So let me share with you guys these two articles. So earlier on, I did a live stream about this, basically. I was on the live stream this morning at my normal 10 o'clock spot, ladies and gentlemen. If you guys had not noticed, I'm on every morning at 10 o'clock and every evening at 8 o'clock, keeping you guys up to date with what's been happening and giving my own personal analysis. Now, I was talking about, on the live stream this morning, I think it was Lisa Jane. And she said, "Sean, breaking news, Europe, Keir Starmer saying that Europe must be ready to fight," which he absolutely did. So then I did a separate live stream about that. And I talked about this quite in depth. So I've done an hour on this. I'm not going to touch, I probably will touch it, but I'm going to try and steer away from that for the time being. What I want to talk about, now is the new news, the breaking news, I guess, that the British army was absolutely destroyed by Ukraine in a NATO war game. Now, if anybody, this is the article here. And that particular article I've put in the description below. Now, if anybody thinks that Britain is ready for modern war with cuts and cuts and cuts and cuts, guess what, sweet cheeks? They're not. The British military is not ready for this war. They don't know what to do against drones. I'm talking about these ones. These it becomes very difficult for the British military to operate in that. Now, people are saying, "Oh, but Sean, you said negatively about drones." Yes, these ones, okay? They're just replacing artillery. People are making too much of a song and dance about it. Before I get onto that, I know the chat's open, guys. So if you want to call me out on anything or ask me to explain something further, please put it in the chat. Before I get onto that, I want to I'm probably going to do another live stream on this tomorrow morning. Rupert Lowe launched his political party, Restore Britain, last night. His videos had more than 10 million views in like the first, I think it's like the first 12 hours he pushed that. He's had more than 10 million views. What I say is I don't see anything good. And I always say that. I'm always honest to you guys. I'm always honest, and I tell you guys what I'm seeing, right? And normally, I will say I don't see an off-ramp. I don't see a way that Britain can save itself. I kind of do see a way that Britain can save itself now. And we really don't have, like, I think this is probably our last chance to save Britain as some semblance. Rupert Lowe and Rupert Lowe's party, Restore Britain. I'm seeing a glimmer of hope. I'm not saying it's a done deal, and it's certainly not. But something I saw on social media is other political parties saying, and this is indicative of Western culture. Other political parties saying, "Yeah, we are not going to stand against Rupert Lowe. If Restore Britain is standing for an election where we are contesting it, we are going to stand ourselves down." Now, that is you don't get that anywhere else. You only get that in Western culture, because it kind of encompasses and encapsulates everything that's great about Western culture. Normally, people will say, like in other countries, they'll say, "No, we're gonna stand. We're all gonna stand. If you don't get in, if I'm not gonna get in, I don't care if you get in. I'm gonna split your votes." that when people say they're going to stand down, that's because they're doing things for the greater good, right? Anyway, I'm probably going to talk about that tomorrow morning, but let me, excuse me. What I want to talk about right now, ladies and gentlemen, is the chilling, quite literally chilling, the chilling exercise in Estonia. Hang on, because I need to carbonate myself, right? This is the this is my first batch of the 40 bottles I did the other day. It's quite fantastic, actually. I'm not going to lie. So what I'm going to talk about now is the exercise, the British military exercise, where a British Army brigade got absolutely destroyed by Ukrainian drones. I don't know what it was called. Let me just share this again, because let me share this again, and then I'll come on to it. Okay. So this is it here. With Fuddly-Duddly, British Army brigade destroyed by Ukraine in NATO war game. This is what I'm going to talk about, and it's one of the things I've been saying for such a long time. If you keep cutting the military and cutting and reducing their manpower, guess what? They are not going to be ready for war. Now, this is counterintuitive, right? Because Keir Starmer earlier on today said that Britain, part of Europe, not the European Union, but Britain, part of Europe, need to be prepared to fight. So what I'm going to tell you will and should be a wake-up call for everyone. And it's going to be a quite chilling story as well, because last year in the frozen fields of Estonia, during a massive NATO war game called, Hedgehog 2025, the British military got an absolute beating. Over 16,000 troops from 12 NATO countries, including a British brigade, teamed up with an Estonian division. Thousands of soldiers, tanks, guns, bombs, trains, planes, automobiles, everything, right? All the military hardware that you can that they can take. And they were utterly destroyed. Game over. They ain't coming back. It's done. And they were destroyed by by Ukrainians playing enemy. This is so embarrassing. It was horrible, as one participant put it, a total route that left commanders swearing under their breath. We are Fuddly-Duddly. We are Fuddly-Duddly. Now, the reason what's happening now is the battlefield in Ukraine. Look, guys, I speak to people on a daily basis who are at the front line in Ukraine. I speak to them on a daily basis. Excuse me. The battlefield has changed so much. Modern battlefield has changed so much. Here in the United Kingdom, because of red tape and things I've said previously on other videos, we are so far behind. And it goes back to the same thing, right? Doesn't matter how much you're spending. What are you producing, right? You know, you can spend as much as you want. If you're not producing anything, you're not doing any good. So picture this. The exercise recreated, and what they're calling is a contested and congested battlefield. So I'm going to assume this was people operating in close-knit battle space, right? Like pretty much like what you would see in Borodiyanka, no, not actually Borodiyanka, like you would see in where did the Ukrainians go in Kursk? Pretty much like you would expect to see in the Kursk region of Russia when the Ukrainians went in there. That would be a congested and contested battlefield. Swarming with drones, just like the hell in Ukraine. Our side, you know, the British side, they were just strolling around. No camouflage, no stealth, parking tents and armored vehicles out in the open like it was a Sunday picnic. The Ukrainians, on the other hand, who are battle-hardened, who know how to do things tactically, who know what the threat is, who know how to counter the threat. Remember, they've earned this knowledge with blood. They've paid for this knowledge with blood. So the Ukrainians with their the Ukrainians were razor sharp with a team of just 10. Yes, 10. Using their Delta battlefield system. Actually, the Delta battlefield system. I know who developed that. Anyway, let's continue. So the Delta battlefield management system. It's like it's basically an app, and it lets you plan, plot, and prosecute missions, especially with drones. So it's called Delta. Anyway, it's just real-time intel, AI crunching data, spotting targets, coordinating strikes. Unleash 30 mock attacks in half a day. 17 armored vehicles are gone. 2 entire battalions wiped out in a single day, unable to fight on. Lieutenant Colonel, I can't pronounce his name, he's Estonian, but, you know, I'm not holding that against him. Oh, you know, they're great guys. Head of Estonia's unmanned systems unit said the whole point was to hammer home the friction, the stress, the overload soldiers face under fire. It mimicked the early days of the Ukraine war when fronts were fluid, not the trench deadlock we see now. And I will come back onto this, guys, and I will play devil's advocate. And I'll play devil's advocate to this. Now, the drones were the game changer, accounting for about 70% of the casualties in that conflict. Our NATO forces learned the hard way that in modern warfare, if you're not hidden, adaptive, and tech savvy, guess what? You are going to the candy shop, you're taking a one-way ticket, and you ain't coming back. Now, let's bring this home. Britain, the United Kingdom, we are not ready for this battlefield. We are not ready for this battlefield. We are going to learn heavy lessons, and we are going to pay for them in blood. Now, we don't have that much to spare. Our military is not the size of the Ukrainian military. You know, and we are just not ready for this battlefield, not by a long shot. Our military has been gutted by years and years and years and years of cuts after cuts after cuts. We are at a stage now where we're taking parachutes away from our parachute battalions. And once you take those parachutes away from the guys, you don't give them back. It's just one of those things, right? Forces have been shrunk to smaller than the Napoleonic War. Our equipment is outdated. And now more slashes to the MOD budget are looming. If we can't hold our own against a handful, a simulated conflict, if we can't hold our own against a simulation against a handful of Ukrainians wielding drones and AI, how do we expect to face the real enemy like Russia? With further cuts announced by the government, things can only get worse, right? They can't get better. If the government are arguing cuts and cuts and cuts, they can't get better. It's got to get worse. Fewer troops, less kit, more vulnerability. These are our brothers, because predominantly it's men on the front line, who are going to be sent to the front line, poorly equipped, poorly led, probably not poorly fed, you know, and that's going to be the direction. That is the direction of travel that we are seeing right now. And this really needs to be a wake-up call for everyone in the United Kingdom to understand that, first of all, we're not ready for this war. We're not. Cutting the military right now is kind of not a good thing. It's kind of, we don't really need to cut the military. Now, in a nutshell, that's the article, right? That is the article. Now, let me just give you guys some inside information, right? You're not going to get this anywhere else. I promise you, You go to GB News, Sky News, wherever, you will not get this insight. And on that reason, ladies and gentlemen, on that bombshell, that's a good segue. Can you make sure you hit those buttons down below, the like, follow, subscribe, bell notification, all those things that help the channel grow, because it's only your fine fingers that make that happen. So, I want to give you some inside information now. So, this exercise, to me, sounds like a bit of a stitch up. First of all, I absolutely agree. The military is not ready to go into Ukraine. They are not ready at all. They're not ready. They're not ready to fight the Russians. They don't have the manufacturing capability. They don't have the manpower. They don't have the resources. They don't have the what's the word I'm looking for? Civilian support, industrial support, right? Commercial support. What I'm going to say this looks like, right, is a bit of a stitch up to get some more money, right? So I can remember doing these exercises myself. So if somebody like a brigade commander or whatever, not a colonel, above whoever, brigade commander, right? If he wanted, if a brigade commander, for example, wants night vision goggles for his guys, right? They conduct an exercise, and the exercise is an epic failure. And the outcome from that exercise, from the independent staff, is the reason they did so bad is because they didn't have night vision goggles. If they had night vision goggles, they would have had nighttime capability, and they would have been able to X, Y, and Z. Now, the reason I'm saying this is because, where is it here? First of all, the exercise recreated a contested and congested battlefield. First of all, if you're in a contested and congested battlefield, you're doing things wrong. That's bad tactics. You don't want to be in there, right? You absolutely don't want to be there. It's not a good thing, right? You don't want to be around people. If you're if you're platoon, company, brigade level, you want to be away from people, and you want to then surge in and conduct your offensive operations, right? So contested and congested battlefield is equal to bad tactics, right? On both sides. It shouldn't happen. Where is it here? Hang on. Somewhere it said, there we are. It mimicked the early days of the Ukraine war when fronts were fluid. Now, in the early days of the Ukraine war, you had poorly trained Ukrainians fighting poorly trained Russians. And they weren't, honestly, guys, there were no real tactics. There were no real tactics. Now, another thing I picked out of this is the phrase, the British forces were just strolling about, no camouflage, no stealth, parking tents and armored vehicles out in the open like it was a Sunday picnic. Nobody does that. Literally, nobody does that. Like, you don't do that. Like, that's just not a thing. So I think this was a bit of a setup to show the effectiveness of drones, which I don't think is that effective. And another thing that there's a lot of talk at the moment in the media, in the mainstream media, and whatever, especially in the MOD, about how to counter drones. You don't. There really isn't anything. You need to destroy them before they come, right? So the next question I will give to you guys is like, how do you counter artillery shells? If somebody's firing artillery shells on you, how do you counter them? You can't, can you? You literally can't. The way that you counter drones is shotguns. That is literally counter drone shotguns. That's it. Forget all your millions spent on X, Y, and Z. You counter. Excuse me. You counter drones with shotguns. Lewis Ackers is saying 2014, Sean Donbass. Yeah, okay. So sorry guys. Sorry everyone. Right, there's been 2 invasions of Ukraine. Right, there was the 2014 invasion of there was a 2014 invasion where the Russians took vast amounts of Donbass and they annexed Crimea. That's like that. People don't forget that. People forget that that was when the initial, the initial strike happened, and then there was the 2022. What was it? The 14th of sorry, not the 14th. The 14th today. It was the 24th of February. 10 days time. Attack on the main invasion, basically. Right, I'm just going to get some questions, guys. I am just going to get some questions. Slim is saying, Sean, well, he's not saying Sean, he's saying the real Raven 1. Drones are robots are the future. Admit it. I've never admitted anything different. These things are only replacing artillery, right? These things are only replacing artillery, right? These things are going to wreak havoc. When people understand how to use these things properly, they're going to wreak havoc. Oh, goodness. Right. Carbonation, Trump including bubbles. I don't know what that means. I don't know what that... Emma Jane Taylor, I don't know what that... Oh, I think she was talking about when I was having some of my carbonated drinks. You know, there really is something fantastic about drinking your own beer. Lager, as that is. Right, I'm just jumping up the chat. Guys, there's loads of people on the chat. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Right, listen, guys. Let me jump to the bottom. There's far too many. Oh, hang on. Let me get this one. Eyeball Paul is saying Kaliningrad is Russia's forward operating base. Nothing will be able to get into Ukraine without Russia knowing. This is why that US general said it would have to take this first. So Kaliningrad is the... Well, let's all see where Kaliningrad is, right? So Kaliningrad is the Russians' like Baltic port. Yeah. So this is Kaliningrad here. Now that's there, north of Poland, west of Lithuania. So that's Kaliningrad there, and that is a Russian. That's Russian owned, right? It's Russian area, right? And that gives the Russians access to the. That gives the Russians basically access to the Baltics, right? I don't think that, like, I'm not convinced that it's the Russians' forward operating base. I mean, maybe. If you guys understand how the most logistics come into Ukraine, this town here, where are we? Hang on, give me a second. This town here, Rzeszów, as it's pronounced in Polish, that town there, Rzeszów, is the it's the closest town to. Sorry, it's the closest international airport to the border. Now, there are flights there. Like, for example, if you want to fly from East Midlands Airport, I think they go Wednesday and Sunday, weird times. They only have 2 flights, but you can get in right. There's an international airport. Now, in that town of Rzeszów, they have a lot of logistics. They have a lot of storage. A lot of NGOs have offices there, and they are coordinating, they're coordinating logistics into Kiev. Now, what they do is they are based there because of the airport, nothing else, because of the airport. Now, what they do is then they send all their kit and equipment to this place here called Przemyśl. I think it's called Przemyśl. I don't know how to pronounce that word, guys. I think it's called, we just call it P-Town, right? P-Town. So they send it here, right? Now, the reason they send it there is because there is a rail network here. There's a rail station in Przemyśl, right? You go to, I think it's at the railway station in Przemyśl. You go to what is it? Number 5, line number 5, whatever they call it, station stop, whatever they call it, number 5. I'm pretty sure it is number 5. Now the gauge on the tracks, on the rail tracks, the European tracks are like this, and the Ukrainian and Russian tracks are like this. So you can't go into Ukraine on a European train. Can you feel the pain? So what you have to do is you have to go to like stop number 5 or whatever it is, and then you have to get on the train, and then you go from. So then they, the logistics will then go from Przemyśl to Lviv, and then they will go to Lviv to Kiev, which is like over there somewhere. So that's the way it's moving. Now, all of that can happen. All of that can absolutely happen without where are we? Without them knowing in Kaliningrad. So obviously the Russians want to keep hold of Kaliningrad, or whatever it's called. They don't want to lose that. What I think would be a likely scenario is they're making, they make a land grab over that border. Right, listen, ladies and gentlemen, let's get back on track. Let's get back on track, because the British Army have just been... The British Army has just been destroyed. They have, guys, they have just been destroyed by 10 Ukrainians with drone capability. Now, I'm going to be quite honest with you guys. I think this whole exercise was a little bit of a hit job, and it was a little bit of a I think it was a little bit of a hit job. And I think it's been blown out of proportion, because what they're talking about, contested and congested battle zones. If you're in a battle zone and it's contested or it's congested, you don't want to be in there, because you're dealing with a lot of things. You're dealing with the increased likelihood of blue on blue, which would be friendly fire. You are dealing with surprise attacks, so you don't know where the bad guys are. They get behind you. You need clearly identifiable front lines. You need limits of exploitation, and that's just not how. That's not how you do war, guys. You don't. If you're in, imagine it, right? Imagine a Royal Rumble. Who's old enough to remember the Royal Rumbles? You know the Royal Rumbles where they used to get all the wrestlers in, and they all used to. If you went over the top rope and everybody, it was just like a free-for-all. If you're in a Royal Rumble, you want to get out of that place as soon as possible. You want to wait, and then you want to move back in when you're ready. So Slim is saying you could never hit a drone with a Flak 88. What's a Flak 88? Hang on, let me Google this. So a Flak 88 is an right. You know what? Let's share this. Let's share this and see what a Flak 88 is. Flak 88 is a German 88mm anti-aircraft and anti-tank gun, artillery gun, developed in the 1930s. It was widely used by the, you wouldn't, absolutely, like, not a chance in a million years. Like, I agree. Like, nobody is going to fire a Flak 88 at one of these. Not a chance. It's, like, ridiculous. Like, yeah, can you imagine? Can you imagine how fast these things move, and they're going from side to side, right? And you're turning those little things, you're turning those little levers. Yeah, so absolutely, I accept, and I admit, and I make no apologies. I would not. Yeah, not a chance. Yeah, I mean, who even uses a Flak 88? They look pretty cool, though. Yeah, I agree. I agree with you, Slim. I would not be able to hit a drone with a flak 88. Like, why would you? Like, you would just use your shotgun, right? You would literally just use your shotgun. Four Paws is saying it's worth noting that Labour MPs know about Nick Brown scandal, but not one of them has spoken out or demanded an investigation of the current Vice Keir Starmer. Do you know what? There's so much wild stuff happening at the moment in the world. One of the things that I thought about it was that girl, Billie Eilish. Is that her name, Billie Eilish? She's got weird eyelashes, I think. She's a singer, right? Anyway, I saw a video of her saying, like, do you like the taste of blood? And I was like, what? And she's talking, she's like, yeah, man, I like the do you know what? Let me find this. I'm not going to find it. I can't be bothered. But yeah, like, what I'm getting at here is, can you remember when it was like the Golden Globes, or was it the Oscars? I don't know. The other day. And how many of those Oscar recipients came out and said, hey, everyone, I think it's really bad what Jeffrey Epstein did to those young girls. Like, how many, like, it was zero, right? It was zero. We are absolutely cooked, ladies and gentlemen. We are cooked. We are cooked when we have a leading, like a ruling world that's like just like drinking blood and stuff. Anyway, look, ladies and gentlemen, right? Let's jump back on track, right? Let's because at the same time, because right now we have two things happening in the United Kingdom. First of all, right, we have Keir Starmer, and I spoke about this. What's happened? So we have Keir Starmer, and I did speak about this earlier, so I'm not really going to touch on this at the moment. We have Keir Starmer telling Europe that Europe must be ready to fight. Now, I know I live in Europe. I don't know where you guys live, but he's telling me I need to be ready to fight. And look at his face. Look at his face. I mean, have you... look at his face, guys. I mean, if this was Rupert Lowe telling me I had to fight, I'd be like, yeah, all right, Rupert, I got you, bro. I got your back. Tell me what I need to do. Tell me the task I need to... If Keir Starmer's saying, we need to be ready to fight, you're like, oh, God, shut up, Keir. Right? Like, if Rupert Lowe told you to fight, you'd be like, tell me where and when. So Europe must be ready to fight to protect its people. Oh, do you know what? I said I wasn't going to do it, but I am going to do it, right? So Keir Starmer, 3 hours, it was this morning, says Europe, and this is so hypocritical, right? And I don't want to go on a side crest here. But Keir Starmer is saying that Europe must be ready to fight to protect its people, its values, its way of life. I'm like, Keir, have you not fucking seen what's turning up on the shores every week, every day? Like, if we need to be prepared to fight and protect our values, at least let us have our values. I mean, what are our values? Praying 5 times a day? Is that British values now? Because it looks to me that British values are being destroyed from within. It looks to me the British way of life is being destroyed from within. That's what it looks like to me. That's what it looks like to me. I don't see an immediate... Oh, guys, I hate to say this, right? I think that I do believe 100% that if the Russians do continue to push forwards in Ukraine, they will hit Poland, they will hit Czech Republic, they will hit Germany, and they will keep going, and they will be operating with land pirates. They will. They'll be operating with land pirates. And at that point, they're just going to push through Europe. There's nothing the Europeans can do. Nothing. They don't have guns, right? They don't have guns. They don't have guns, and they don't have balls. And I like... You have balls, Gary. And I like balls. so they will literally just push through Europe. Now, for Keir Starmer to come out there and say that we must be ready to fight, to protect our way of life, to protect our people and our values, I'm like, mate, have you seen what's happening in the United Kingdom? So that's the first thing that's happening, right? That's the first thing that's happening in the United Kingdom. The second thing that's happening is British Army Brigade destroyed by drones in NATO war game. And one of the commanders just said, yeah, we're fucked. That's what he said. He said, we're fiddly ducked. He said, we are fiddly ducked. And the link to that article, I've actually put that in the description down below. Now, this comes as Britain is having cuts and cuts and cuts, destroying our military, emasculating our men, and all the same time, we are looking. Keir Starmer is asking. He's asking people to get ready to go and fight. I can't even make sense of it right now. I don't even know the direction of travel. And if look, it's like. We're such a mess at the moment. Oh, listen, guys, let me just throw this out there because I know I spoke about this earlier. Let me just throw this out there again, and then I won't touch this again. Normally on the live streams, I don't see anything positive, and I really don't see anything positive. I see an inevitability that Britain is dragged into a war in Europe without the United States. I think that's going to happen, and I've never said anything otherwise. I normally say that I can't positively identify the off-ramp, right? Where's the off-ramp? How do we get out of this? But I did see something today, and I do think that there may be a glimmer of hope with Rupert Lowe's political party. I'm going to talk about this tomorrow, so I'm just going to leave it there for now, guys. Right? I was going to go into like what I see coming next for Rupert Lowe and his political party and how the political system works and where I think we're going. But I'll talk about that tomorrow morning. Vanna Cavery saying, when you've done watching Sean tonight, go grab some downtime, fun and imagination. Watch IF on Netflix. Forget this world we're living in. Grab a bag of popcorn. Grab a bag of popcorn. And on that bombshell, ladies and gentlemen, right, I need to go for a wee, right? I need to go for a wee. I do. I'm going to go for a real good wee. It's going to be the most fantastic wee I've ever had. Can you guys wait there? Like 2 seconds. I'll be gone and I'll be back. Give me 2 seconds. I'm back. Thank you for hanging around, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for hanging around. I really do appreciate it. Right, let me excuse me. Right, Rod Panhard is saying that story about Russia going back to the dollar was from Bloomberg. Yeah, Russia's not going back to the dollar, guys. Who's saying that? Not a chance. Russia ain't going back to the dollar. Not a chance. They're like, no, yeah, Russia's not going back to the dollar. Templar Matt is saying, I thought you were going to say, grab a bag of compost I will be doing in the next few weeks. I don't know. Are we all planting vegetables? I mean, we should be. El Cid is saying, greetings from Captain Windsor. Hello, El Cid. Right, hello, El Cid, don't be spamming. I can't pop my corn any longer. I'm too old now. I hope nobody's popping their corn right now. I hope we're all paying attention and nobody is popping their corn. Hang on, no, this one. Morning Doom. Hello, Morning Doom. Are you married to Afternoon Doom? He said, what if elites scheduled a war but nobody showed up? I think everything's scheduled. I absolutely do. I know you're saying this in jest, but I genuinely believe everything is scheduled. And if you've gone and if you've watched my previous videos, you know, if you watch my previous videos, I've talked about these things, and I've talked about the direction of travel that, you know, that we're heading, and I do genuinely believe that these things are mapped out. Everything comes from the U.S. election cycle. Literally, everything in geopolitics starts and ends with the U.S. election cycle. It always does. So you've got to understand where the U.S. election cycle is. Is Trump going to do this? Is he going to do that? Is he going to stand again? Is what going to, so, and then you work backwards from that. You have to look at human history, right? You have to look at human, the human condition, I think. The human condition is that strong men create good times create weak men create hard times create strong men. That is the reality of the world right now, and we are unfortunately at the crescendo where we are in hard times created by weak men. And women, obviously. I don't want to leave women out because I'm not, everybody's equal as far as I'm concerned. Everybody's equal. So that's where we are. And we are at that fourth turning crisis phase, war phase. There's a scene in, for some reason, I'm brought to the movie Predator. And there's a scene on Predator. What a fantastic movie, Predator. I hope with the advances in AI, there will be a Predator, like another Predator movie, but like with Arnold, and it will just be it'll be in a jungle. It will be prime Arnold, and it will just be awesome. I do. I hope they can do that with AI. What I'm getting at is, there's a scene in that movie where they're like in a bush and they've set a trap for the predator and they're waiting for the predators to come, and they're talking, and the woman says, yeah, this happens every so many years, but this year it's going to go fucking crazy. That's where we are right now. There is so much stuff happening, so many of these little pots, simmering pots that are about to pop. Oh, hang on. Lisa Jane is saying Brexit betrayal to cost 40 billion a year. Right, let me try and find this on the mainstream. Oh. Oh. Outrage as Rachel Reeves' Brexit betrayal to cost UK 40 billion a year. Re-entering a customs union, a move now openly supported by senior Labour figures, would shave 0.5% of GDP in the first year, think tanks claim. Honestly, like every time I see a picture of Rachel Reeves, I just think I wouldn't trust her. If Rachel Reeves, hang on, I think I can share this picture. Hang on. Oh, yes, right. Hang on. Let me share this, right? So if I went into a shop, right, that sold dog food, right? Rachel Reeves would absolutely say, thanks, Rachel Reeves, but do you know what? I don't want any dog food. Like, if I went into a store and I saw, you go into the store, right? And you say, excuse me, love, have you got any dog food? And she's like, oh, yeah, here's a dog food. If Rachel Reeves was selling me that dog food, I would, honestly, guys, I would say, no, thank you. I would say, I don't trust you. I don't trust what you're selling. And I'm good, thank you very much. However, let's continue. Okay, so Rachel Reeves' insistence that closer ties with the European Union represent, honestly, this is socialism, guys. This is what happens in socialism. They take your money and they do whatever they want. This is what happens in socialism, right? Rachel Reeves' insistence that closer ties with the European Union represents Britain's biggest prize is an outright Brexit betrayal that will cost the UK 40 billion a year. Leading UK think tank has warned. The Prosperity Institution has warned has said that Keir Starmer's accelerating pivot towards the European Union is fatally flawed. So what they're saying there basically is this move back to the European Union, this move back to the EU, it's going to cost us a lot of money. Now, I would argue that Britain, we never really left the EU. We never left. We've always been part of the ECHR, right? That's why we can't get rid of that's why they say we can't get rid of the migrants. But like we've never left the EU. So if you've never left the EU, honestly, it's just a mess. I would prefer to be the master of my own destiny and not have to answer to people in Europe that I don't even know. And Lisa is saying, I'm sick of hearing all these billions and billions being given to other countries. It is, guys, it's crazy. Billions and billions given to other countries. Why? Listen, and for everybody who wants Keir Starmer to resign, can you imagine if David Lammy takes over? How many billions will be given in foreign aid? Reparations? Listen, I think we're talking about it now anyway, so I will talk. Listen, guys, the crux of this live stream is that we are fuddled. The British Army has just been destroyed in a military war game excuse me, against Ukrainian drones. This comes as a backdrop to Keir Starmer saying that Britain must be ready to fight the Russians. That's what's really happening. Now, just quickly, because I know everybody's talking about it. What I think's coming to Rupert Lowe and Rupert Lowe's political party is the establishment are going to get to work, right? They are going to see Rupert Lowe and they are going to try and find any dirt on Rupert Lowe they can. And this is how you find dirt, right? This is literally how you find dirt on people, right? You go in. Let me Google this. I think he's from Somerset or somewhere. Where? Great Yarmouth. Sorry, I was miles off. Right. So he's in right. So he lives in Great Yarmouth. Oh, hang on a minute. Oh my God, he lives in Ravenswell. He lives on Ravenswell Farm. Jesus Christ. Ladies and gentlemen, stop the clock. Apply your safety catch. Everybody looking. Oh my. Rupert Lowe lives at Ravenswell Farm. That's your live stream right there. Yeah. Just saying, Rupert Lowe lives at Ravenswell Farm. This is I'm not giving any information that you can't find on the internet, right? So he lives in Cheltenham, right? So he lives in Cheltenham. So here's how you do this, right? So here's how you find dirt and you publish dirt on people. You go to Cheltenham, right? You go to Cheltenham and you say, "Hello, mate." He's like, "Yeah." "Oh, I see you need a few quid." And he says, "Yeah, I do. I'm skint." He says, "Right, well, we're running a story and I want to pay you $5,000. And he's like, "Okay, go on. I'm listening." He says, "Right, well, have you always lived in Cheltenham?" "Yes." "Didn't you once work for Rupert Lowe?" "Oh, no. But if you say you work for Rupert Lowe and you let me interview you, I'll give you $5,000. You sign a non-disclosure with me to say that anything that we've said is, you're not allowed to divulge it in court. And I record you saying that Rupert Lowe did X, Y, and Z or whatever." They get that image, they get that footage, they then publish that as a national article. The truth doesn't matter because people are watching this now. People are watching this. "Oh, Rupert Lowe did this. Rupert Lowe did this to these people. Now they're homeless. Rupert Lowe's doing this." That's what's coming, guys. I promise you, right? You will see this. You will see this in the next days, weeks, or months. All right. That is what will happen. All right. That's what will happen to Rupert Lowe. He will come under personal attack. There may even be Epstein files written about him. There may even be Epstein files written about him. Remember, I can generate. I'll do it. I'll do it now. I will do this right now for you guys. Give me a second. Let me get AI up. I'll literally do this now. I'll give you like 30 seconds, less than 30 seconds. Probably give me less than a minute. Right, so literally, it took me a while to print that because I need to get on the thing. But right, so let me share this with you. Right, I literally took me 30 seconds to do that. Right, how long did it take me to do that, guys? How long did it take me to do that? So I literally just asked AI then, and I've just generated that email there, right? To Rupert Lowe from Jeffrey Epstein, thanks for the pizza, Rupert, Jeffrey. You see how quickly I generated that? Now, does that to you look like it's like, you know, and I get it, you know, I totally understand that's fake and you guys can see it's fake. But what I'm getting at here is, look how easy it is to fabricate stuff with AI. It took me, what, less than a minute to do that? Most of that was because my spelling mistakes. What I'm saying is here is you are going to see attacks by the mainstream tabloids. They're going to be coming very soon against Rupert Lowe. We always see this. You know, they always try and attack people. News Watcher is saying, okay, you guys need UKIP. Danielle is saying, Keir Starmer got elected on July the 5th. On July the 5th, sent $3 billion to Ukraine on the 10th. And on the 25th of the night, yeah. Now, Danielle, do you know what? If you want to look into this even more, look, guys, I do this. Like, I know where this money's going, right? So, I don't know if it was July. It may have been August or September, but it was certainly pretty soon after the winter fuel allowance had been closed. They pledged another. David Lammy went to Ukraine, right? Check this out yourselves, right? David Lammy went to Ukraine and he pledged another 900 million for Ukraine, right? Just another 9. So after the 3 billion, no, actually it was 600 million. Sorry, it was 600 million. So like Danielle's saying, Keir Starmer got elected. He then sent 3 billion to Ukraine. He then cancelled the winter fuel allowance. Cancelled the winter fuel allowance. And then David Lammy went out to Ukraine, right? I promise you, this is on the government's own website. But people don't do this. People don't do this. Like, all the information is out there, right? And it all comes back to karmatic retribution, right? Karmatic debt. Anyway, I'll talk about that in a second. So David Lammy went out to Ukraine. I even shared this with my friend in Kiev. I said, mate, what the fuck? So David Lammy, so we cut winter fuel payments to Britain, right? David Lammy, like the next day or whatever, maybe even it was July, went out to Ukraine and he said, right, we're pledging another 600 million on top of the 3 billion. And they're all clapping their hands at David Lammy. And David Lammy's letting them all know that he's a black man. If you then click on the government's own website where that money's going, do you know where that money's going? That 600 million was to support pensioners in Ukraine. Jesus Christ. Oh my God, it's all just clicked in. It's all just clicked into place. It's all just clicked into place. Jesus Christ, it's all just clicked into place. Oh my God. This is what's going to happen. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm giving you guys this in real time. This is what's going to happen. I need to be veiled with my speech. The Ukrainians are going to lose. Then the Ukrainians will have a stronghold. And everyone will just be plowing money into that stronghold. And then guess what? People will stop plowing their money elsewhere. And the war will stop. The war will stop. The Russians will win. But there will be a little enclave in Ukraine that nobody goes near. Nobody goes into it. And that will just be where all the Ukrainians are. Yep, that's what's coming, guys. Mark my words. Mark my words. I know this video, I could probably do a standalone video on this, but it's all just jumped into my head there, guys. That's what's coming. Imagine a little Israel, right? A little Israel in Ukraine with a big concrete wall around it, protecting the Ukrainians. The Ukrainians have suffered so much. Britain, for the next 100 years, are going to send $3 billion a year to that little region. Everybody else is funding it. That's what's coming, guys. That is what's absolutely coming. I feel that's what's coming. There's going to be like a little area segregated off in Ukraine, and the Russians are going to be around the outside, and that's what's going to be the thing. Rod Panhard is saying the money launderers can't allow Zelensky to live. Do you know what? I was talking about this the other day. You could argue the same thing with Keir Starmer, though, right? Like, Keir Starmer's so compromised right now. Like, Zelensky's so compromised. I think they're so compromised, they will, they've got to do. When you're that compromised, you will do as you're told. The money launderers can't allow Zelensky to live. I don't know if they can't allow him to live. I don't know if they can't allow him to live, but it's certainly not going to end well for Zelensky. They can't risk his coke-fueled loose lips dropping them in it. This is why he's so desperate to keep throwing Ukrainians at a lost cause. What is a lost cause? What is a lost cause? It's a difficult thing. What I do know, right? And I know, let me Google this. Let me see if this is out here. Hang on, Zelensky. No, it's not on the mainstream yet. Oh, hang on, maybe that's it. No, it's not out there. But allegedly, for entertainment purposes, there's a phone call that's being recorded by the anti-corruption, the Anti-Corruption Bureau, or whatever it's called, in Ukraine. And the alleged topic of that conversation is between Vladimir Zelensky and President Macron, Emmanuel Macron in France. And allegedly, for entertainment purposes, I don't know if this is true, certainly not on the mainstream, the Zelensky is trying to get $4 billion, I don't know whether it's dollars or euros, $4 billion or euros out of Ukraine. So what he does is he gets on the dog and bone, and he phones Zelensky and tries to buy a bank. He tries to buy a bank to get the money out. Lisa is saying, Sean, please read Scott Pew Pew's comment. Right, where's Scott Pew Pew? Scott Pew Pew, I will find your comment, Scott Pew Pew. I will. There we are. Sean, please look at Vortex new optic system. Each optic can mark a target, and it shows in all other optics like marking a target on COD. US have adopted it, their new optics. It's a game changer. Yeah, so what happens is, okay, first of all, until these things are battle tested, I'm not convinced. These things need batteries, and again, I get target and I get technology and stuff. But what you do basically is that so what they do is, so first of all, I think if this is the one I'm thinking about, it's the one that overlays night vision and thermal. And then on your scope, you get a laser, and you can your laser sends out a certain frequency that is marked to your helmet. These things are ridiculously expensive. And then when your laser is pointing at something, kind of like the javelin marks a tank, right? You can then click on something, and then everybody else can see that. So if you've seen a bad guy running left to right, then you can click on that target and say, right, that is a bad guy running left to right. I don't know how, like, all this technology is great, right? It's all great and it all helps. I don't know where it's disruptive. I don't know what that's going to help. I don't know what this is going to help. I don't know if somebody can. In fact, Scott Pew Pew, if you can tell me in what scenario that's going to help, and will that be a game changer? I'd really like to know, because maybe I'm just too old. Maybe I'm just too old and I don't understand modern warfare. I don't think that's the case. But if you can say at what scenario that's going to help being able to lock onto those targets. Danielle Tudds is saying this. So the UK cost the winter fuel allowance, it had been cut in July 24, would cost an estimated 4 billion. So 3 billion away, then 600 million to away straight away. Yeah. Look, guys. We are destroying ourselves. As a country, we are absolutely destroying ourselves. We are destroying ourselves. We're sending far too much money overseas. And I get it, I get it. People need, I totally understand, the Ukrainians are in the fight for their lives. And if the Ukrainians fall, then the Russians right now, as we are now today, the Russians would continue. We're going to see land pirates. But I think we should protect our own shores first, right? That makes perfect sense. Scott Pew Pew is saying target acquisition. It just seems expensive for me. It seems expensive for what you're getting, right? It seems really expensive for target acquisition. Now, the way we used to do it in the military is you would just shoot at a target, right? You would say, "Watch my strike," or if it was nighttime, you would see the tracer going in. So in my day, you would just shoot at these targets. Now, for the cost of the helmet, and I don't know, guys. I think some things are money. I think some things are just like, the juice ain't worth the squeeze. Louis Ackers is saying target laser systems on naval equipment. US has got for ships. Right, okay, I don't know what that means. Right, listen, guys, I'm just going to get the last comments. Ruben is saying all UK Christians should start a new festival to coincide with Ramadan, celebrating pork. Bring out the barbecues in the street. Maybe. Well, that would be banned straight away, wouldn't it? That would be banned. The Festival of Pork. Danielle's saying heavy snow tonight. Yeah, I heard that. I don't believe it. I don't believe we're ever going to get heavy snow again here in the United Kingdom again. Paul J is saying, lots of Japanese around tonight. Bit off a nip in the air. Well, it is pretty cold tonight. Yeah, it is pretty cold tonight. Daniel Jack is saying, hi. You keep saying it's expensive, but this is coming from from my country, America, who left billions of dollars in military equipment in Afghanistan. It's just a drop in the bucket for America. Well, when you talk about expense, right? Hang on. In my experience, if you rely on technology too much, it will fail. Right? It will fail. Yes, of course, technology is great. It's far easier producing a project proposal, right, on Microsoft Word than it is with pen and paper. There's no denying that. There is no denying that. It's a lot easier. on Microsoft Word than using a pen and paper. I get it, you know, special forces, they want all the tactical gear, they want all the kit and equipment, and they want everything that's cool and all this cool stuff. Now, I'm gonna go back to something I've said previously, and I say it quite a lot, actually. You know, I've said this quite a lot. So what I'm going to say is, what is the purpose of your military? What's the purpose of your army, right? Because this equipment that we're talking about would be for the army, target acquisition. Oh, God. Is the purpose of your army to having used the best equipment, the most expensive, the most technologically advanced, or is the purpose of your military to take and hold ground? Now, whichever one you think it is, you know, that's what it is. I would say the task and purpose of your military is to take and hold ground. So that's what you should be focused on, and doing that as efficiently as possible. Listen, guys, I'm sure it's a great piece of kit. I'm. Right, listen, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to close this down. The crux of this live stream has been, we are fuddly-duddlied. The United Kingdom, the British Army is absolutely fuddly-duddlied. The British Army has been destroyed by a group of 10 Ukrainians with drones, with swarm drones. Now, this comes after there was a chilly exercise in Estonia where I think there was 16,000 NATO troops. And they came across a well-oiled, well-run, well-machined drone. I'm assuming it's these ones. Drone unit. Now, they lost. Now, playing devil's advocate, I don't think it was realistic, because they were talking about congested and contested areas, and that's just bad tactics, right? So whatever. But this does come as Keir Starmer is warning that Europe must be ready to fight. And if all else fails, ladies and gentlemen, just start a world war, then everybody forgets everything. Listen, guys, on that bombshell, I'm going to leave you guys to it. Happy Valentine's Day. I hope you have a fantastic evening doing your Valentine's Day stuff, or whatever you guys will be doing on Valentine's Day. I'm going to get the barbecue on. Oh, hang on. I'm going to get the barbecue on. I am. I've got the barbecue on. I've got a big piece of rump heart. It's like the heart of the rump. Apparently, when you cook it, it looks like a heart shape. But anyway, let's leave that, guys, because I'm going to be back on tomorrow morning, and we are going to be talking tomorrow morning more about Rupert Lowe's new party, Restore Britain. I think it's a fantastic thing what he's doing. I hope it works. I'm skeptical, although hopeful. I think that's a fair thing to say. Normally, I say to you guys, I don't see any hope. I do see a direction now where things could change. Unlikely, yes, but I do see that direction. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I will see you guys later, and I bid you good evening.